So we're going to talk about, start with the fundamentals of Six Sigma and Lean. The philosophy of Six Sigma is that defects are expensive, both in resources and customer satisfaction. When you produce something, a widget that doesn't work, hey, I mean, okay, either you catch it in the factory, in which case it has to go back into either scrap it and you lose all the materials and what you paid for the materials, or you have to go and rework it and somebody's efforts have to be diverted to doing that rather than building a new widget. If it slips out, your customer gets it, well, it doesn't matter, it's a warranty. I know if I have to send something back on for warranty work, I'm actually not happy with that because I bought this thing in order to use it, and now I can't use it. And, my car's in the shop, or I have to ship back this tablet because it doesn't work. That's not a good thing. So you end up losing customer goodwill, and if you basically get a reputation for shoddy products, you will start losing customers in a drove. A competitive advantage, of course, is gained by meeting customer expectations. That's one of the things where Apple really shone as far as coming up with new products that are really cool and really, it met and exceeded expectations. Again, if your product is not meeting people's expectations, they will exit and go find people who do provide those products. That's, of course, what happened to BlackBerry related to, say, Apple and the Android areas, as for instance. Now, who defines customer expectations? Well, basically it's the customer that defines the customer expectations, and the idea is you and your organization is to find out what do the customers want and talk to them. Not my idea. Well, gee, I think they need this. Unless, of course, you're a genius like Steve Jobs, but most of us are not. So therefore, we should be talking to the people we're actually selling to. The focus, of course, is on processes, and this is key. I mean, a lot of companies will sort of go who are not Six Sigma and say, well, our problems are people. Maybe we hire superstars will do better. No, even good people with bad processes will produce bad work. So the key is the process. Understand their processes and then fix them and optimize them and make them the best they can be as far as meeting our customers' expectations. That is absolutely key. For example, I was working on a large accounting project for a Fortune 500, and there was a lot of blaming. The plant controllers only did this, and our things would be more efficient. Or when they would say, well, corporate did that, things would be more efficient. Well, the problem was the process was just if you can call it a process, was extremely inefficient. So we had to focus on dealing with the process. And once we dealt with the process, everything else, and sold the process and convinced everybody, hey, look at this process. This will deal with all our issues, and we can focus on more high value activities. Everybody was happy, and the blame gains were dissipated, and basically we had a very efficient accounting system. And I'll actually talk about the accounting system along the way because that was very key. There's a lot of good learnings from that. Of course, Six Sigma has to have a strong alignment to the organizational goals. I mean, we're not operating in a vacuum here. If we start off in the corner doing our own thing, it won't work. The organization will basically reject it. It has to be aligned. The problems we're trying to solve are the problems the organization has within the context of what the organization is doing. Now, it may be that the organizational goals are either fuzzy, poorly defined, or actually incorrect. Well, then you have to sort of deal with those goals, and that's totally a different process entirely. But within the environment you're working in, of course, you have to sort of make sure that your efforts are in line, that we're all on the same page. Basically, again, one of the key things, of course, is reducing process output variation. What does that mean? Well, okay. I'm doing that. Variation could be either in defects. Okay, I'm producing these widgets, and 5% of them are junk. Why are 5% of them are junk? Why is 95% of my widgets okay, and why are 5% not? Well, we have to reduce that because, again, that is totally unsatisfactory. We won't try and reduce it to less than 1% in order to get within Six Sigma. And in order to our customers satisfied, because we don't want our customers to have to return our widgets for servicing, or worse yet, our widget blows up in their face and causes them major problems. we want to be able to do that. The other variation, of course, is production. Okay, well, today we produced 1,000 widgets. Tomorrow we're producing 800 widgets. The next day we're producing 900 widgets. What's wrong here? I mean, why can we not? Because we need to have a good sustained production because our customers are depending on the timely delivery of our widgets, especially if they're actually using them for their processes, and of course they're using just-in-time inventory. We do not want to, back ordering is never a good thing. Again, you lose customers if you have to do that. So we're focusing on reducing variation. That is key of various kinds. You'll use more of the statistical methods when you're dealing with defect-related variations, and you'll use more of the lean methodologies and tools when you're dealing with sort of process time variations, and we'll cover both in the course of this course. So, and therefore, by continuously improving an organization's process via analysis of the, basically what's our process is producing, and understand, looking at that data, and we apply various tools in order for reducing the variance, be it defects or be it process time variation, we will gain, meet all our goals. We will actually produce a high quality product, and we'll produce it consistently. If people order our product, it will arrive to them when they expect it to arrive to them, and it will meet their quality expectations. And in the process of doing this, we'll have reduced a lot of our wasted processes, a lot of rework, streamline our processes, improving our bottom line, and everybody's happy, win, win, win. Let's go off and celebrate. So some of the principles behind this are, of course, this formula that basically all outcomes and results, the Y, are determined by the inputs, the X's, with some degree of uncertainty. So this is what we're trying to do. To change or improve the results, the Y, you have to focus on the inputs. The X's to modify them and control them. So what does this mean? Okay, if the Y is in producing, say, processing mortgage applications, that's my Y. And I'm having problems with some applications being accepted should be rejected, and other ones being rejected when they should be accepted. Okay, this is an issue. So why is that? What are the inputs to that? Well, I have the mortgage application coming in from the people applying it, but then there are inputs related to checking credit scores, people making decisions based on the information available. And so why are those, and so we're looking at, well, okay, is it because we're getting bad credit scores? Well, there are some issues with that, but maybe the issue is like the decision-making processes. Okay, so what's wrong with the processes? So then I'll start focusing on that. And that's where we come to think, in order to improve that, say to make sure that only those applications that are acceptable are accepted, and all the applications that are acceptable are accepted. I'll start going to focus on what inputs and then modify them and control them. In this case, I'll look at the processes for approving the mortgages and try to understand that process, what goes into that process, and change them in order to meet the goal of making sure that we accept all acceptable mortgage applications and only the acceptable ones, as for instance. The thing is that variation is everywhere, and it degrades consistent good performance. Our mission is to find it and minimize it. That is the key thing. You want to have stable processes, both as far as how long it takes to execute the process, as well, of course, as the quality of the process itself. Once you have those locked down and stable and under statistical control, and we'll talk about that later on, what that means, then you're able to then optimize your processes and tweak your processes and improve your processes, because you're starting with a stable base. And that is, of course, the key is, first of all, stabilized, and then you can then improve, go further improvements from there. Of course, you need valid measurements and data in order to do this. You can't guess, because If I'm just guessing, well, maybe this is the problem. What if it isn't? Not only have I, or even worse, what if trying to fix what I think is the problem creates even a bigger problem? Everything should be based on hard data, measurements. We're not just talking purely quantitative stuff like, okay, our defect rates, for example, defects per million opportunities. But I'm also looking at things like how people are walking through our plant. I want to basically look at how the flow of materials and processes work within my plant. I'll be timing exercise, there'll be observation, we'll be doing Gemba walks, other things like that. And that is all valid data that'll come into the equation, and when we'll have all this data, we'll look at all this data in order to understand like what our problem is and what can we do to change it. Now, another thing is only a critical few inputs have significant effect on the output, and so we want to concentrate on those critical few. This is, of course, a practical application of what Pareto's law is, which basically it is 20% of anything basically is responsible for 80% of the effect. We want to focus our efforts on where we get the low-hanging fruit, the biggest bang for the buck. We want to identify where are the critical few things we need to focus on. If we change those, then we get big gains. Of course, that doesn't mean we ignore anything else that may have an impact on us. For our first project, we just go for the big wins, and then we can continue to progressively refine our processes along the way. And there are various ways to do that and get to a point where we can start doing sort of things like Kaizen blitzes and whatnot, which we'll talk about later on. Of course, every decision and conclusion has risk, which must be weighed against the context of the decision. Against this is risk reward. Okay, what is the change has risk involved in it? But the idea is doing nothing can often have a greater risk in it. So you have to sort of look at that. Okay, if we do this, what is the possible impact? How will that impact our other processes? How will that impact our organization as a whole, our bottom line, our customers, our suppliers? Okay, are the potential rewards greater than the risks? What are the actual real risks? Are we sort of creating a boogeyman, something, or a monster under the bed here? I mean, we have to look at it as, are we letting our own fears get the better of us, or are we actually really focusing on the true risks? There was a company that produced typewriters, and as computer technology came out, they thought it was too risky to move over to producing word processors, and later on computer-based software for that. They say, no, we will actually lose our customer base. It's too expensive, too much risk in there. We'll just keep producing typewriters. And they kept producing typewriters till they went bankrupt because nobody was buying typewriters anymore. So again, you have to sort of look at sometimes if you create a boogeyman, you can end up sort of dooming yourself along the way. So you always have to have a very objective view of risk, and also be willing to take those risks, because again, there's nothing ventured, nothing gained is true, especially true in this area. So where does all this come from? Six Sigma. Well, of course, it was developed back in the 80s at Motorola in response to their struggle to meet demanding quality targets for complex manufactured products. Of course, it has its roots in the earlier quality improvement movements, which came out of Japan, the work of people like Deming and other key fathers of quality, which we'll talk about. It later became well known at GE when Jack Welch adopted it in '94. It was originally a quality measurement approach based on statistical principles. It's transformed over the years as a discipline improvement methodology for reducing variation, and not only includes all these statistical tools, but it's actually incorporated more of the lean processes that came out of the Toyota model and whatnot, and then basically, so now you have a more comprehensive tool set that you have available. The roots lie in these people, Crosby, Edwards, Deming, Schubert, Feigenbaum, and all the others, and we'll talk about them and their contributions, because you will be expected to be familiar with it. Now, Crosby, he wrote the book Quality is Free, which is one of the seminal works in this field. basically his thing was doing things right the first time. In other words, you don't want to have defects. You don't want to have rework. You don't have to have warranty returns. You want to make sure that the thing is done right, period, and out the door it goes. You had 4 big rules. They were key. The performance standard should be set as 0 defects. Nothing less should be accepted. Quality is the same thing as conformance to requirements. So in order to that, you have to make sure your requirements are correct. I mean, if you have poor requirements, the quality is going to be poor. If you have good requirements that basically are taking account the goal of 0 defects, that have the necessary redundancy, robustness, that your processes are high quality for producing it, your machines are well tuned, well operated, well maintained, you will have a high quality. And you get that by preventing defects. There's an old saying that quality should be designed in, not inspected in, and this is very true. And of course, the measure of quality's value is the cost of non-conformance. Okay, if we have poor quality, what is the cost of that? And we'll address that time and time again. There'll be a section on the cost of poor quality and the concept of the hidden factory, which is where your factory is producing wasted effort, money, and time. But yeah, I mean, that is the key, the bottom line. And that's how you sell this to management. They say, okay, well, this is how much revenue we're losing, how much money we're expending that we do not have to expend if we improved our quality. And this would be the payback. Then we have Edwards. He was the first president of the American Society for Quality, which is, of course, the organization you're taking your exam through. He was the head of inspection engineering at Bell Telephone Labs and was instrumental in inventing their groundbreaking quality assurance programs. And it was Deming. Deming is a key figure. It was the father of quality control. His insights was to use the statistics for that. We collect our numbers, we can crunch them, analyze them, and we can see where our problems are. One of his big insights was between common and special cause variation, which we'll talk about later. He was best known for defining the 7 deadly diseases of the workplace and 14 points for management. And he also went over to Japan back in the 50s to deal with all their quality issues. At that time, Japan had a reputation for producing absolute junk, and really turned it around to Japan's, then got the reputation for high quality. In fact, they have a quality award in Japan that's issued every year to companies called the Deming Award. Now, 7 deadly diseases of the workplace. Lack of consistency in planning. This is key. I mean, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So you want to make sure that you have good processes in place for planning, for both how you plan your processes, your process improvements, how you do your long-range plans, your short-range plans, whatnot. And if you're consistent in that, you will actually have a lot better results. Basically, you start winging it. The emphasis on short-term profits. This is all too common, as basically a lot of organizations are focused on their stock price, basically our quarterly revenue, and there's always the danger of cannibalizing the future in order to feed the present. And that can bite you, and it has bitten a lot of organizations over the years. You want to basically plan for long-term growth and profitability, and basically put the processes and procedures in place in order to support that. Poor performance evaluation systems. There's a classic one that that can really bite you. You will always get the behavior you incent. So if you basically are incentivizing based on your performance evaluations and rewards, bonuses are based on individual performance, you could be sacrificing team performance, as for instance, or even have people diverting their efforts away from key projects because there's whatever is like the management really wants you to do, even though it may not be as important as something else, will come to bite you. There was one company I was working for. They were producing processes and products for the financial services industry. The big focus was on bonuses and was on the euro conversion. However, in the process of totally focusing on euro conversion, they really fell behind their competition on developing new products. And their competition then took a lot of market share from them. They needed to balance the need for, porting their existing product line to support the euro with continuing to develop new products because it's a very competitive industry. Excessive turnover among your employees. People, some organizations tend to view people as interchangeable parts. This is wrong because they have knowledge of your processes, knowledge of your data, knowledge of everything that's core to your organization. If they leave, that knowledge goes with them. Furthermore, you have the productivity hit. When you bring in new people, you have to train them. They have to learn your systems. They have to learn where your data is. They have to learn the processes, who the customers are, who the suppliers are. So there's a whole ramp-up period, and you lose that productivity overall. Then there's the morale issue. If people are going out the revolving door here, after a while, people start getting a little demoralized. It's obviously got serious problems which are causing that. And people who with poor morale tend to not produce as well as people who are really excited about who they are working for and look forward every day to coming to work. So you have to look at what is the problems around that, what's causing that kind of employee turnover. Over-reliance on the metrics that are easiest to obtain. This is key. I mean, it reminds me of the old story of someone came up to this guy, this obviously drunk man, groping around on the ground underneath the street light. And he asked the guy, what is he doing? Well, so I'm looking for my keys. Oh, so you lost them here? No, I lost them over there, but here there's light. And so you need to actually focus on the metrics that really matter, not the ones that are easy to get. Oh, yeah, well, we got this data here, just look through that. Because we're in a hurry. I mean, so you may end up missing something important because you're not taking the time to go into your systems and find data that may be hard to find, but data that could be crucial to solving the problem. Excessive medical costs, he pointed that out. Of course, it's very much a problem in the United States. How can you reduce that? Of course, make sure employee wellness programs, workplace safety is huge. That will really reduce your medical costs overall, of course, and your compensation costs. And we'll talk about things about some of the processes for the 5 S's in the lean movement that really can improve workplace safety. Excessive liability costs. Again, this can come out of poor products. If your products are shoddy, you can have all sorts of issues that can even result in you being sued for large amounts of money. As I was growing up, there was a problem with the Ford Pintos exploding gas tanks. More recently, they had the airbags that would basically send shrapnel through you when they deployed. I mean, those are going to be very expensive liability-wise. Of course, also not even discounting the fact that people were killed and badly injured by this, and that's always a horrible thing for your products to do. You do not want to go down that line. Related to that, he has 14 points for management. Maintain a consistent purposes. I mean, again, you want to be focused. You want to have goals. You want to basically continue to work those goals. You want to look like you actually have a consistent purpose. You don't want to be saying, oh, we'll do this today, and tomorrow you say, no, we'll do something different, and the day after they do something different. That confuses your staff, makes it demoralizing. They figure there's no one in command. Your customers don't know what you want, what to expect from you. Your suppliers don't know what you want. And you end up sort of running around in circles. I mean, you should basically have goals, long-range goals. Those long-range goals then deconstruct into tactical and operational goals, which then deconstruct into what you're going to be doing every day. But again, have a plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And of course, adapt a new philosophy. Just, you don't keep sort of doing the same thing hoping that somehow things will improve. In fact, that's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Just because you've always done something in a certain way doesn't mean it's a good thing to do. Change, evolve, processes evolve. This is the 21st century. Adopt 21st century management methodologies. Adopt agile and lean approaches to things. Adopt Six Sigma. Make those changes. Don't keep doing things like you're still in the early part of the 20th century. Basically eliminate dependence on inspection. Again, quality should be built in, not inspected in. You look at your processes in order to make sure and refine your processes so they produce very few defects. So you don't need that kind of inspection, because what is inspection? It's a kind of a wasted effort. You basically find something that's broken, you throw it back into the process to get fixed or into the scrap heap. Wouldn't it be better not to have that thing come out defective in the first place? Yeah, you want to sort of focus on the defect reduction. Cease to award business based on price alone. Basically, you're always awarding to the lowest bidder. What kind of quality you think you're going to get? And basically, remember, what your supplier is supplying is going to be going to your processes. And it's like manufacturing or any other process. It's like cooking. The quality is very dependent on the ingredients you're putting into the thing. If you got poor quality subcomponents or raw materials coming in, you're going to end up with a poor quality product going out, because all the quality control you're doing in there, all the things you're doing to improve your process are to naught, because you're starting with garbage in and you have garbage out. Basically focus on constant quality improvement. It's not just a one thing, okay, we'll fix our quality, because a law of entropy kicks in. I mean, you just ignore something, eventually it basically will start degrading again. I mean, it's just like you have to weed your garden. Well, same thing, you have to always stay on top of quality issues, do continuous improvements. That's the whole philosophy around Kaizen, which we'll talk about later on. So you have you do your Six Sigma project, get that big hit, get that quality up there, but then you maintain that quality consistently. And basically you live it, eat it, breathe it on a daily basis. Then provide on-the-job training to your employees. Remember, a lot of times the problem is not your staff. The problem is your staff is not properly trained. I mean, I see it all the time out there. I mean, where mistakes are made because people don't know the process well enough. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to react to something unusual. So you have to provide the necessary training to basically take them up to the next level. If you really train them well and become proactive, they become your best defense against defects, and also your first line of quality improvement. And we'll talk about that, some of the techniques around that, in order to improve the whole processes by basically empowering the people on the floor and providing that training. Provide leadership. Again, the difference between management and leadership is basically leadership inspires, it facilitates, it empowers your people to do things, to take your processes to the next level. It empowers their productivity. So you want to be leading, not just basically producing endless memos about this, that, or the next thing, and shuffling paper all around. So basically provide that leadership, provide that vision to your organization to help it take it to the next step. Eliminate fear. That is so key. If people are in an organization where messengers get shot, if I bear bad news, if I report bad things, it'll impact my my bonuses, my chances for promotion, or even result in me being fired. I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm going to tell management what they need, what I think they want to hear, not what they need to hear. I will not cooperate. If I was an employee in those organizations, I would not cooperate with the Six Sigma team because I'm afraid of what that could, if I start talking about problems, they'll get back to management. I'll be afraid to change, make any suggestions. The whole organization will just clamp down. And there was an insurance company that I was recently doing some consulting work with. There was very much a climate of fear, and it was impossible to put any change in that place. It was impossible to get anyone to really tell you what really the problems were with their processes. You know, everybody, oh, there's no problems with our processes. Well, there were, but everybody was too afraid to. So their improvement efforts, which were from their parent company, were doomed because there was such a climate of fear there. So you want to basically where people feel safe to come up and say, well, here's our problem, and also come up with suggestions. Well, I think we should do this instead. You want to be able where people are just feeling comfortable and having that open communication, because only then will you find out what's really being done. Because there's I'll talk about later on. There's 3 views of a project, and the first view, of course, is how you think this process is being done. The second view is how it's really being done. Now, if people you want to know how it's really being done, so people have to feel safe enough to say, well, no, we're not doing it by the book, and this is why we're not doing it by the book, because there are these problems with the process, the way it was documented. You want them to feel safe enough to say that. Reduce interdepartmental barriers. This is huge. I mean, I have seen so much waste effort over the years in many different organizations. And of course, larger organizations are the worst for this, and of course, the government's even worse still. Where departments don't cooperate. In fact, they might even be actively and openly hostile to one another. Again, to the accounting system I was working on for a large Fortune 500 manufacturing company, there was an absolute hostility between the various plants and corporate as far as the accounting departments go, and there was just no cooperation whatsoever. And even within corporate itself, I mean, there was the accounting department was totally siloed, and there were other people from out in other departments did not trust the accounting department. Those bean counters, we tell them too much, they'll just go and take money away from our budget and whatnot. So there was a lot of problems there. And you have teams where the teams fail because the people are drawn from different departments. The team leader does not have the authority, is not really their boss, so they're reporting to whoever the department head is, and the department head keeps pulling them away to different projects or with different priorities, or even asking them to basically make sure this project fails, and that's an issue. So you really got to tear down those barriers and start the organization work in a more fluid, more inclusive manner. Basically, you reduce your pressure on your workforce and eliminate quotas. I mean, one of the worst things is quotas, because if I have in a factory, we got to produce 100 of these things an hour, and or else, and say I produce 100 of these things, and 3 of them are defective. There's a great temptation will just basically ignore the fact that these 3 are defective and pass them on to the next process, let them worry about it, because I got to meet my quota. I mean, no, quality should be the most important thing, not how many of these things you produce. And then there's also pressure. I mean, there's one of the classic things within the whole agile movement that you can bring into it is the fact that, people should be working at a sustainable pace. You don't want to burn out your people. Also, tired people make mistakes. Burned out people make mistakes, and mistakes will create those defects. Is it the problem of the people? No, it's the problem of the organization that produced the processes and procedures that basically forced people to work unreasonably long hours at a reasonably fast pace, and forced people to basically meet the numbers, and the numbers were more important than anything else. As far as the quotas, I mean, I say the failure of the communist system is a classic example of, the failure of the quota system. They all had their 5-year plans and their quotas for everything else like that. But, the Soviet Union collapsed and China had to morph itself because, the quota system basically was futile. Yeah, everybody met the quota, but, what was produced? Eliminate ineffective management styles. This is key. You want to make sure your management styles are ones that empower your workforce, to basically inspire your workforce, that provides them with the guidance and direction they need without micromanaging them, makes them feel like they are important, they're valuable, makes them feel like gives them confidence that the people at the top know what they're doing. And that they basically provides a state and basically deals with the problems, focuses on what's important. I have a slang term I devised myself called being managerial. That's when some middle manager type person walks in and basically says something that makes no sense, or basically interferes with the process just to look like they're doing something, rather than looking and seeing what really needs to be done and doing that. So that's very ineffective. So you want to get rid of those. You definitely want to run a theory Y company, not a theory X company. You want that pride, because people with pride are productive. People with pride care. You want productive people who care, because they'll spot defects, they'll spot ways to improve your processes, they'll communicate back up the chain. Hey, I think we can actually do a little bit better here. So we want to promote that. Again, education and self-improvement. That's part of the whole thing, that you really need to focus on making sure that people have enough training. They're given the opportunities to improve themselves. If they become more sophisticated, it can be part of your whole quality improvement, ongoing quality improvement processes. Transformation is everybody's job. It's key. Everybody has to sort of every day look at it is my job to improve things, to improve our quality, to improve our throughput. I have to make that part of my job every day. It's not just this guy, this Six Sigma black belt dude over there just doing all this stuff. No, I'm doing this stuff in my little machine here. So yeah, those are so key to that. If you take those 14 points, if any organization does them all, they will be a world-class organization. Now, Shewart's the father of statistical quality control. He formulated this idea of tolerance intervals and proposed that data representation rules are listed below. In other words, data by itself means nothing. What is it? It's just like a pile of numbers. Whoop-de-doo. Basically, it has to have a context. What does this data mean? Where related is context? What process is it coming from? What problem are we looking at? What is the X here? What is the Y here? We have to understand the context of this data. Only then and only then can we actually use it.
Start with new learning now.